Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
Hi, this is Keith Chenoweth, here to say today that Nerdery and Murdery is easily the best podcast on the internet.
Welcome to episode 31 of Nerdery and Murdery.
31.
You're an idiot.
I am Zig with your nerdery.
I'm Geoffrey with your murdery, and we have with us our guestery, Keith again.
Hi.
Good chat.
Yeah.
Good times.
Nice talking with you.
So this episode comes out on January 2nd, so Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2022.
2022.
Finally. Get out of... Maybe 2022 will be a better year.
Maybe.
Get out of all this crap. One thing I was going to ask you about, and I know I'm going to say the name wrong, even though I've been corrected on it like 3 times. I'm going to say it anyway. You're an old fan of Bauhaus.
Bauhaus.
Damn it. Still did it wrong.
Yes.
Okay. So I wasn't. Did Peter Murphy come from that? Is that where he came from?
Yes, that's where Peter Murphy comes from.
Not knowing.
And Love and Rockets.
Okay. Not knowing any of their songs off the top of my head without seeing it. So I'm watching The Americans. And a song starts playing during kind of a very tense moment during it. And I'm sitting there listening to it. And I'm like, is this a Pink Floyd song I don't know of? Do you know the song I'm talking about?
No.
Slice of Life.
Okay.
It's very Pink Floyd, where
Yes.
they is a lot of their music like that?
Yeah, a lot of it. A couple of ones you probably ought to hit. She's in Parties, and of course, Bela Lugosi's Dead. If you ever go to a haunted house,
you've said that one. I've never heard it. I was just curious. I'm going to have to listen to some more of their songs because I was. Slice of Life is now another new song of mine that I really like.
You're getting into the Bauhaus.
Yeah. That is not a calming song.
No.
That is a very stress giving song as it gets into it. So yeah, I'll have to listen to more of their stuff. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It's a good song. It's a really good song. I enjoyed it a whole bunch.
I love those guys.
So that's all I had.
Cool.
Do you have anything you want to get into the nerdery side of the house?
Well, the nerdery is going to be kind of long today. Maybe we need to jump right into it.
All right.
I have 17 pages. Today, the nerdery is about...
Good Lord.
It's about Michael Mann and, more specifically, Miami Vice. As I said, we would be covering Miami Vice and Michael Mann. Mm-hmm. So, just a little information on Mann off the top. Mann was born February 5th, 1943 in Chicago, Illinois, to a family of Jewish ancestry. He's the son of grocers Esther and Jack Mann. He received a BA in English at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. While a student, he saw Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove and fell in love with movies. Mann later moved to London in the mid-1960s to go to graduate school in cinema. He went on to receive a graduate degree at the London Film School in 1967. He spent 7 years in the United Kingdom going to film school and then working on commercials along with contemporaries Alan Parker, Ridley Scott, and Adrian Lyne. So,
wow.
That's pretty good company. In 1968, footage he shot of the Paris student revolt for a documentary, Insurrection, aired on NBC's first Tuesday news program, and he developed his 68 experience into the short film John Puri, which won the jury prize at Cannes in 1970. Mann returned to the United States after divorcing his first wife in 1971. He went on to direct a road trip documentary, 17 Days Down the Line. And 3 years later, Hawaii Five-0 veteran Robert Lewin gave Mann a shot and a crash course on television writing and story structure. Mann wrote 4 episodes of Starsky and Hutch, 3 in the first series and 1 in the second, and the pilot episode for Vegas. Around this time, he worked on a show called Police Story with cop-turned-novelist Joseph Wambaugh. Police Story concentrated on the detailed realism of a real cop's life and taught Mann the first-hand research was essential to bring authenticity to his work. Mann also wrote an early draft of the 1978 film Straight Time. 1980s. Michael Mann's first feature movie was a television special called The Jericho Mile, which was released theatrically in Europe. It won the Emmy for Outstanding Writing in a Limited Series or Special in 1979 and the DGA Best Directors Award.
What was The Jericho Mile?
I didn't pull that one up. I did look at his first feature film, Thief, in 1981, which starred James Caan. I went back and watched this recently. It's really good.
Never heard of that either.
It's a relatively accurate depiction of thieves that operate in New York City and Chicago at the time. Mann used actual former professional burglars to keep the technical scenes as genuine as possible. It's the first time anyone showed how a thermal lance works on film.
Okay.
To crack open the safe. His next film was The Keep. 1983, a supernatural thriller set in Nazi-occupied Romania.
Right, that's one of your top 10
Halloween. I love The Keep.
Top 10 scary movies.
That's
one
right.
Of your top 5. Sorry.
Yeah, top 5 scary movies because they kill a lot of Nazis.
Right.
It was a commercial flop. The film has since attained cult status amongst fans. I think mostly because of the way it was shot. The guys are really, really good about the use of lighting and color scheme, which comes up a lot in Miami Vice. You know, primary colors were not allowed on the set.
Interesting. Yeah, no kidding. Pastels became a big thing for Miami Vice.
And they would bring in a car. They bring in a like, okay, we're going to have this Mercedes in the shot. Okay, so we got a white Mercedes, we got a red Mercedes, and a blue Mercedes. He's like, well, we're going to have to go with the white one because we can't use red or blue. Yeah. And up until Michael Mann kind of left to do Crime Story, you won't see anything that's primary color. Yeah, he would just get them out. Yeah, look real close. Occasionally, someone will show up with like a stripe or something on their shirt, and you don't see them for very long. So,
Well, hold on. So Tubbs's car at the first of the series was a black Corvette?
It was a Cadillac.
Was it a Caddy?
It was Cadillac.
And then
Crockett's
Crockett
convertible
had.
was bright yellow.
No, it
I
wasn't.
thought it was white.
No, it was a like a, I don't want to say brown, but almost like a.
I thought it was a white Testarossa.
No, he eventually got into white Testarossa.
Okay.
White was fine.
Uh-huh.
It was, the primary color was like red, blue, and green.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was
You will not see a lot of it in the show.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And he didn't really like to use a lot of earth tones like browns. You don't see a lot of browns in there either. Except occasionally, like I think one of the old vans that the two guys use was brown.
There's a name for that color scheme and that iconography that came out of the late 80s, the mid to late 80s. You know, the think of like the triangle, the circle, the squiggly line.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the name of that visual style.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
I cannot remember it either, but I know what you're talking about.
Triangle, circle, squiggly line, the ESP cards?
No.
Talking about Ghostbusters now?
No.
All right.
But we can.
Yeah, we can talk about Ghostbusters. I'm okay with that. So from 84 to 1990, Miami Vice was on television, and he wrote the episode Golden Triangle. But mostly he was the showrunner. Miami Vice is an American crime drama television series created by Anthony Yerkovich and produced by Michael Mann. The series starred Don Johnson as James Sonny Crockett and Philip Michael Thomas as Ricardo Rico Tubbs, two Metro-Dade Police Department detectives working undercover in Miami. And the series ran for 5 seasons. I think it was September 16th, 1984 to January 25th, 1990. Michael Mann left after the first 2 seasons to concentrate on the show running for Crime Story. The concept of...
I'm sorry, I can't even believe that you've talked about Crockett and Tubbs, and you have not even mentioned their boss.
Okay, so as in a previous episode, we did mention the actor who played Chano and Barney Miller, right? He was also the original captain in Miami Vice, and he gets killed like 6 episodes in.
Right.
And he gets replaced with, oh my God, I can't remember the character's name. Edward James Olmos.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
That's
the one that I was shocked that you hadn't even named yet.
Yes.
Because, we talked about in Battlestar Galactica how just amazing he was in that. And then, going back to Miami Vice when he was their boss, he was great in the show.
Oh yeah. He was incredible. Because they would talk to him and he would just look at them with a seething hate and then just answer, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
And it was just, there was so much going on behind that look. It was amazing. Mwah, sweet.
Was Miami Vice a Friday night show?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I believe
But
so.
before Friday night meant death for a TV show.
Well, that was the thing. Miami Vice, people would not leave their house until after they watched Miami Vice.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Now, the conception of this show is unclear. One version of the event states that the head of NBC's entertainment division, Brandon Tartikoff, wrote a brainstorming memo that simply read MTV Cops.
Oh, yeah. I'd heard that.
And later presented it to the series creator Anthony Yerkovich, who was a writer and producer for Hill Street Blues. Yerkovich, however, indicated that he devised the concept after learning about asset forfeiture statutes that allowed law enforcement agencies to confiscate the property of drug dealers for official use. The initial idea was a movie about a pair of vice cops in Miami. Yerkovich then turned out a script for a 2-hour pilot titled Gold Coast, but later renamed Miami Vice. Yerkovich was immediately drawn to South Florida as a setting for his new style police show. While the first few episodes contained elements of standard police procedural, the producers soon abandoned them in favor of a more distinctive style. It was heavily influenced by the Art Deco revival. Again, this is where the no earth tones came from. They were allowed to be no earth tones were allowed to be used in the production because of Michael Mann. Bobby Roth, a director, recalled, There are certain colors you are not allowed to shoot, such as red and brown. If the script says a Mercedes pulls up here, the car people will show you 3 or 4 different Mercedes. One will be white, one will be black, one will be silver. You will not get a red or brown one. Michael knows how things are going to look on the camera.
So then what was his thought process behind nobody wore socks?
Okay, that had to do with some of the. They would go to Italy and look at some of the fashions that were coming down the runways in Milan. In 1984, all of the fashions, no one had socks on.
Okay. Pastels and no socks.
Pastels and no socks. Well, some of the pastels also came from Florida too, because they wanted to kind of set the And in the episodes where they go to New York, you'll see more reds and browns because when they go to New York, he wants to incorporate more of that in there to show that it's not Miami.
Sure. Because
they actually filmed it in South Beach. And it was, Miami Vice was the first American network television program to be broadcast in stereophonic sound. I'm sorry, that was really difficult for me to say. It was mixed in 4-channel stereo for
better you than me.
its entire run. Now, before the production started, the idea was to do all or most of the exterior filming in L.A. And pass it off to the viewers as urban Miami. But that an approach was put in practice 2 decades later during the filming of CSI Miami. But instead, nearly all of the filming, both the exterior and interior, was done in Miami and Florida. Many episodes of Miami Vice were filmed in the South Beach section, an area which at the time was blighted by poverty and crime. Its demographic had deteriorated so badly that they were able to just grab people off the streets and use them as background people. So a lot of the people you see in Miami Vice lived in South Beach, Miami, especially the first 2 seasons. They would go in and they would redo some of the old hotels and ocean drives and use them for like houses or hotels and stuff or office buildings. So what they would do is they would go in and they would, instead of just putting paint on it, they'd actually redo the front. That revived that part of the town.
Really?
It did, yeah. Miami Vice is one of the reasons why South Beach came back. Was it had a lot of notoriety, and they would go and film someplace, and they would fix it up and make it look better.
Wow.
Ocean Drive's hotels were filled with elderly, mostly Jewish retirees, mainly of them frail, subsisting on meager Social Security payments. So they would put them in the thing, ask them questions like they were a witness to a crime, and then they would pay these people a little extra money. Plus, they fixed up their places.
Sure.
They could film in the middle of the street because there was literally nobody there. Yeah, they stopped doing that toward the 3rd and 4th season because what they had done was already reviving the local economy.
That's interesting because, thinking nobody on the street, go forward, I don't know, 30 years, whatever it is, and Burn Notice. I mean, Burn Notice is chock full of people.
Same location, South Beach.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's just funny thinking of that empty when you see Burn Notice, 30 plus years later, how much that changed it. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Bobby Roth again recalls, I found this house that was really perfect, but the color was sort of beige, and the art department painted the house gray for me. Even on feature films, people try to deliver what is necessary, but no more. That's not what Miami Vice did. It's like, hey, let's make this look as real as possible.
Right.
Can I just say that I wanted to be Sonny Crockett when I was 15 years old or however? What year did Miami Vice?
1984.
Yeah.
So yes, 15 years old.
Right on.
I'm sorry. A, you didn't phrase that in the format of a question, and B, could you ask the question before anybody responded? So I'm sorry, we're going to have to disqualify your answer.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay. Carry on.
Okay, so after Chano died, Edward James Olmos was cast as Lieutenant Marty Castillo. He replaced the slain Rodriguez as head of the OSB, a very taciturn man. I like the way they say that. Castillo lives a reclusive life outside of work. He was formerly a DEA commanding officer in the Golden Triangle.
Did I miss it somewhere? OSB?
OCB.
OCB, which is...
Organized
Could you just give me an
Crime Bureau?
acronym?
Yeah.
Where's your glossary now?
Organized Crime Bureau.
Organized Crime Bureau makes sense. Okay, thank you.
But he was a commanding officer in the Golden Triangle of
Don't
Southeast Asia
abbreviate
during
me
the
and not
70s.
know what it means.
During his time as a DEA commanding officer, he opposed the CIA in endorsing the trafficking of heroin to finance their overseas operations. Sandra Santiago is Detective Regina Navarro Calabrese, a fearless female detective who, after Crockett's divorce, held a brief romance with him. Even after the relationship did not progress, they still had a strong friendship.
So, do you love how in descriptions of TV shows from the 70s or 80s, I'm probably all the way back to the beginning of TV until, I don't know, the last 10 years.
Yes.
Any female character had to be described as fearless or sexy or brave. It couldn't just be, there's a woman character, deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, she's hardcore.
Well, okay, so hold where you are because I'm going to go on a complete way out tangent.
You? Never.
Oh,
No.
Shows like this from the 80s, the 70s, 60s, and even before, we've talked about that you couldn't do those today because of cancel culture, because of people that get offended very easily about various things that at certain time periods was acceptable on TV. Whether you agreed or disagreed with what they said, it was things that we accepted were going to be on TV. All in the Family with the racist with Archie Bunker, Jefferson's racist against white people.
I'm going to push back on you about Jefferson's being racist. Okay, it was a product of its time, right? But it was groundbreaking in the sense that it was.
No,
I think
he's talking about George Jefferson being racist.
Because George no, that's exactly it. Because George and Archie were very similar in their views towards the other. Yes. And it's not something you could redo today. Absolutely, it was groundbreaking. It was 100%. It's a great show. So my point was things that you couldn't remake today, and it just made me think about this because I saw the news article this week that after, I don't know, however long it is now, 40 years, whatever it is, they're going to release History of the World Part 2.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, have you seen some of the writers on this?
I have seen some of the writers on it. Now,
Ike Barinholtz, Wanda Sykes, of course, Mel Brooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mel Brooks famously has said that Blazing Saddles absolutely could not be made today.
Absolutely. We've said it here that you couldn't make it. And that's what I'm kind of a little nervous about with History of the World Part 2, because Part 1 you couldn't release today. So sorry. I tailed off on it because I saw that this week. Just certain things can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. Certain things you just can't do today. And there was a lot in Miami Vice you just couldn't do today. So bygones.
Circling back, as we do. Olivia Brown is Detective Trudy Joplin, Gina's patrol partner, though she sometimes struggled to face consequences on her job, such as when she shot and killed a man. Later in the series, she had an encounter with a UFO and an alien portrayed by James Brown. This was later on.
Back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to need to unpack that one.
Okay. Wait.
Trudy.
Okay. Wait.
Okay.
Are you telling me, unless I really misunderstood what you just said, there is an episode of Miami Vice.
Yes.
Where she encounters a UFO.
Yes. And an alien portrayed by James Brown.
I quit. Okay.
Okay, we still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I quit.
All right. Michael Talbot played Detective Stan Switek, fellow police detective and Larry Zito's best friend. Although a good policeman, later on in the series, he falls prey to a gambling addiction. He's also a big fan of Elvis Presley. John Deal as Detective Lawrence Larry Zito, a detective and Zwitek's surveillance partner and best friend. He was killed in the line of duty when a drug dealer gave him a fatal overdose. Just jacked him full of heroin.
I remember that.
Yeah. Deal enjoyed being on Miami Vice, but wanted to leave the show, opting for a more creative opportunity in theater. Gregory Sierra as Lieutenant Lou Rodriguez, a police lieutenant who serves as a commander to the Vice unit. He is killed in the 4th episode by an assassin hired to kill Crockett. That's the guy that played Chano in Barney Miller, who also got killed pretty early on in the series. Now,
well,
Nobody likes that guy.
yeah,
well, and Michael Mann was one of the writers for the later episodes of Barney Miller.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's how he was able to get some of those guys.
I know Barney Miller was set in a station house, but it was a sitcom, right?
Yes,
I mean, completely different tone. That's interesting.
You know what's really, really interesting is the same people who did Barney Miller, Reinhold Weege, which we finally found out what his name is pronounced as. Weege.
Weege.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Was basically the showrunner for Barney Miller those last couple of seasons. When he did Night Court, the idea is they occur in the same universe. So some of the people that you see in the station house
Miller,
end up in Night Court.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes. So about this time, Michael Mann is... he wants to do something else. He wants to do another cop show. He's still associated with Miami Vice, but he kind of pulls back a little bit. So in 1986 and 1988, he wants to do a early 1960 series called Crime Story. So he goes and gets...
Greatness.
He goes and
Did
gets...
you ever see Crime Story?
I am confusing the crime story that you are talking about from, I guess this would be late 80s, early 90s?
86 to 88.
With the current iterations of, American Crime Story, and, that kind of thing. I realize they're different things. I don't remember ever seeing the one from the 80s.
Oh my God, it's
Dennis
incredible.
Farina was the star of it. Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah, we talk. So I'm going to repeat it again, so somebody will hear this. But I said it in I said it in one of our episodes. The best opening line ever on a TV show is from Crime Story, and it's where Dennis Farina's character is talking to a criminal who has hostages inside of a building, and he tells him, "Okay, we need to go ahead and fix this. We need to make this right. But if any of these hostages get hurt, I will find whatever it is in this life that you love most and kill it."
Yeah, on network television.
That's a good opening line.
With this nice flat Chicago accent. So
Yes.
the thing about Dennis Farina, he was not an actor.
Yeah.
He was an actual detective in Chicago that Michael Mann basically found and was like, hey, because he'd served as like consultant on a few things. He's like, hey, why don't you do this show with us? I want you to play a 1960 Chicago detective. And Farina's like, man, I can do that. I can't do the flat Chicago accent. Sorry.
Right.
Oh, it's great.
So circling back to something that I said right at the beginning of this segment about wanting to be, the yellow convertible that I thought was Sonny Crockett's car. Apparently, it was actually Nash Bridges' car.
Yeah, there you go.
And so
different character, same actor.
I think that what that's telling me is that it's not so much that I wanted to be Sonny Crockett. I want to be Don Johnson.
Well, who does it?
Right.
So, yeah, Crime Story is an American crime drama television series created by Chuck Adamson and Gustav Reinger. It aired on NBC, where it ran for 2 seasons, September 18th, 1986 to May 10th, 1988. Great attention to detail was paid to fashion, cars, and music locations. And I can say this, if you watch Crime Story, you don't see, and I like to look in the backgrounds. You don't see, because usually in a period piece, you will see like a car, really far at the back. It's like, oh, that's like an 88 Cutlass. There ain't no way that's going to be in that show.
Yeah, there's a whole hobby of looking for anachronisms in period, TV and movies,
I defy you to try to find one, especially in the first 4 or 5 episodes.
Well, and go back, because you just mentioned music. So let's kind of go back to Miami Vice for a minute, because I meant to mention this, is one of the big things about Miami Vice was the music was so iconic.
Yeah.
From the theme song, the opening theme song, to the very songs that came out of it. You had Smuggler's Blues by Glenn Frey that came out of that show. You had In the Air Tonight from Phil Collins that came out of that show. Crockett's Theme, which is a haunting song. I love that song.
Is that also Jan Hammer?
Yes, Jan Hammer. Is it Jan or Jan?
I thought it was Jan, but it could be
Mr. Hammer.
Mr. Hammer.
It's Mr. Hammer.
Mr. Hammer.
Yeah, he did both the theme song and Crockett's theme, and Crockett's theme is just so
Maxwell Silver?
haunting to me.
Never mind.
So yeah, the music was very iconic from Miami Vice.
Yes.
And then we go to Crime Story, which also was great with music, and we had talked about the opening theme song was a 80s tricked up version of Del Shannon's Runaway, and I prefer it.
It is. Oh, the guitar work in it is phenomenal.
Yes. I'll find it when we take a break.
Yeah. But I probably ought to link to that just to put up a video.
We absolutely should, because it's a great opening theme
it's
song.
Incredible. Yeah. So he's working on Crime Story. He only got to do Crime Story for 2 years. Now the first season takes place in Chicago. But they were having trouble. They were having trouble getting the buildings right. So the second season takes place mostly in Las Vegas, and they filmed it out there on the is it downtown? I think it's downtown, where they still had some of the old stuff in 1987, 1988. Some of that is the last video of some of that stuff.
Yeah,
in existence.
You're talking downtown that's now got the covering over the entire.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Fremont Street.
Yes, well, they were able to record a bunch of stuff there that may be the only existing good quality recordings of that stuff in existence.
So here's something that just reminded me of that might be good fodder for your nerdery segment. Did you know that what is now the Fremont Street Experience at one time was planned to be a life-size replica of the Starship Enterprise as a hotel?
We have talked about that. I did not know it was on in Fremont. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
A life-size Enterprise.
Yep. Yeah. That's where it was going to go.
I want to see that. I want to see that exist.
It. They scrapped it. They said it was too cost prohibitive.
It got all the way through, planning and costing, budgeting. It was apparently completely feasible, or at least they thought so at the time. It got all the way to a top executive at Paramount that, for no other reason that they felt like they had to protect the Star Trek brand, just flat shot it down.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh my God. Why don't they bring it up again?
So that's another episode, sir. That's our Star Trek episode. You came in on the wrong one. I'll ask you if you'll please leave and come back when that episode's on, and we can talk about that some more.
Yeah, well, there's this whole, Wayback Machine thing where I'm listening to the Star Trek episode and yelling into my phone about how wrong you are.
So you just want to climb through the speaker.
So yes, I would very much like there to be another Star Trek episode.
Jim, what the hell is wrong with you? I can just see you driving, listening to it.
I was driving. The phone is on my dashboard on its little, magnetic mount, and I'm yelling at the phone.
Which part was he wrong on?
I can't remember now. All of it.
Ouch!
Well, William, we got to go back and record another episode.
We did. We have recorded another Star Trek episode.
Well, we're going to have to re-record that one and replace it out there. So.
Okay. After Crime Story.
Oh, shit. We're talking about Michael Mann still. Okay.
I'm sorry. Circling back to Michael Mann as we do. In 1986, Mann was the first to bring Thomas Harris' character of serial killer Hannibal Lecter to the screen with Manhunter. His adaptation of the novel Red Dragon, which starred Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter.
No kidding.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes. And I will there are people who will argue with me to this day. Brian Cox is 10 times more menacing than Tony, what's his name? Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, Tony Hopkins.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, Brian, he's just, and because he's not, he's so menacing because he's not menacing. He just Brian Cox just kind of got the undertone on it and just,
Yeah, I mean, go back and watch anything where Brian Cox is the villain. The first thing that springs to my mind is Silverado. And he...
No, that's Brian Keith.
That's Brian Dennehy.
Brian Dennehy, yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Brian Cox is an English actor.
Okay.
Brian Cox?
Succession. I think he's in Succession.
Oh, okay.
He's the dad.
Oh,
in
yeah,
Succession.
okay.
Yeah, that's Brian Cox.
Sorry, my mistake.
FX.
That's Brian.
Brian Brown. Shit, we're all over the place with Brian.
Brian Cox.
We don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
You have Brian Keith, Brian Dennehy, Brian Cox, Brian.
Good
I
God,
have a lot of actors named Brian. We need like a flow chart.
Yes, that's it. This is why we need a studio, so we can just put this stuff up on a board. Brian Cox, just pictures.
Oh.
Yeah, Brian Cox.
Shit, okay.
Yeah.
So Brian Cox, God, he's a great actor.
Yes, he
Did you
is.
see Red?
Uh-huh.
He's the Russian.
Oh, okay.
That's Brian Cox.
Let's just pretend we planned that bit.
Okay, right on. It was funny. So yes, I will argue with anybody that Brian Cox makes a better Hannibal Lecter than Anthony Hopkins. Personal preference. In an interview on, and also William Peterson played Will Graham, and I actually liked William Peterson better as Will Graham than I did. What's his name? Who Red Dragon? Because it's the same story.
Ray Fiennes. Well,
no. Ray Fiennes was the bad
is
guy.
Red Dragon.
And I love this actor. He was in Fight Club. Edward Norton.
Ed Norton.
Oh, that's great.
I liked his character in Red Dragon.
You know what? I loved Edward Norton in Red Dragon. William Peterson is better.
Huh.
He made a shitty Bruce Banner.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So Manhunter was a TV series.
No, it was a film.
It was a movie. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch Manhunter.
I've been touting. It's the reason why I didn't like Silence of the Lambs, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. This is the characters from Manhunter, and they didn't use any of the stuff from Manhunter.
Yeah.
And again, Michael Mann filmed Manhunter because he was shooting Crime Story, he was shooting Miami Vice. He took a summer off and went and made this movie. It has that feel.
Well, so how close to Red Dragon is it?
I would say, okay, so the exterior houses where they're going off to the houses and they're up in the tree. Yep. They're the same houses.
Oh, wow.
They use the exact same houses. A lot of the stuff with Will Graham does actually look like it's taken off of a Miami Vice set early on. Dennis Farina is his commanding officer in it. And again, nice, flat Chicago Dennis Farina. He's great.
So loosely based on Red Dragon, or like a faithful adaptation of Red Dragon?
It is a fairly faithful adaptation. There are some differences, whereas they didn't talk about the painting in Manhunter, whereas they did talk about it in the film Red Dragon,
right? And
him eating the painting. But like the scene where they roll the guy down the
right down the hill in the wheel,
where in the wheelchair and he's on fire.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Way better in Manhunter than it is in Red Dragon.
I don't know how you could consider one better over the other. It's somebody on fire.
It's a wheelchair-bound person on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think there's a subjective scale for that.
It's horrifying any way you do it.
Now, in an interview on the Manhunter DVD, William Peterson commented that because Mann is so focused on his creation, it takes several years for him to complete a film. Peterson believes this is why Mann doesn't make films very often. He's like, every 3-4 years. So Mann gained widespread recognition in 1992 for his film adaptation of James Fenimore Cooper's novel into the epic historical drama The Last of the Mohicans, starring Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes.
What was that?
You heard it too.
Yeah. It didn't sound like
It did sound like a dog.
I thought it sounded just like the Chupacabra.
Outstanding.
Goat suckers.
it sounded like a wolf.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, tie up your goats.
Yeah. Anyway.
In 1999, Mann's filmed The Insider, about the 60-minute segment about Geoffrey Wigand and the whistleblower in the tobacco industry. garnered quite a bit of attention. Russell Crowe portrayed Wygand and Al Pacino playing Lowell Bergman, and Christopher Plummer is Mike Wallace.
That is a great movie.
The film showcased Mann's cinematic style and garnered the most critical recognition of his career up to that point.
See, this is why I love stuff like this. I had no idea that Michael Mann was the creator that ties all of these cool things together.
Yes. One of the films that he did that I actually don't care for, but is very critically acclaimed because I thought Al Pacino was terrible in it. Heat. That's another Michael Mann film.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't care for it because I thought I didn't like Al Pacino in it. He was too much. And him and De Niro together when they're sitting at the table talking, De Niro's very understated, just hitting the mark. It's really lovely, and then Al Pacino's just like he's talking over.
Al Pacino has not chewed scenery in any role he has portrayed since Scarface. So, and I stand by that.
He has not chewed scenery.
He has not chewed scenery.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
No, absolutely.
I was like, wait, really?
Yeah. Because as you're talking about it, De Niro and
I'm surprised
Pacino,
he didn't have splinters in his mouth after that scene.
I don't know much that De Niro's in that he is just not fantastic.
Everything I've ever seen
versus
De Niro,
Pacino,
yeah.
I think he's over the top in everything he plays.
Yeah.
I think he goes way too over the top. Ocean's 13, which I thought was a much better successor to Ocean's 11. Ocean's 13 was really, really good, but him playing Mr. Banks was just too over the top.
Yeah.
He does the same thing in Any Given Sunday. It's just Pacino gets to be too much to me, but De Niro.
He was right down. He was throwing it right down the middle. You know, it was like Val Kilmer and Joanne Whalley were great in that film too. It was Joanne Whalley that played his wife in the film. Who was actually his wife at the time, wasn't it? Yeah,
I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
But to your point, when somebody says Michael Mann to me, the two things that I think of are Miami Vice, of course, and Heat. If you were to say to me or probably a bunch of other people, what movie has Michael Mann made?
Not many people think of him as that either.
No shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming up to next.
Well, please carry on.
With the next film, Ali, starring Will Smith, Mann started experimenting with digital cameras. So I think they won an Oscar for that. The only thing I disagree with him about Ali, I think they should have switched the Ali character and the George Foreman character, the actor. I think they actually look a little more like each other. Yeah, I not for the acting ability, not for the delivery of the lines, any of that. I think it looked a little better. It would have looked a little better the other way.
I cannot see Will Smith as George Foreman. Will Smith doesn't look a tiny bit like George Foreman.
All right, fair enough. Yes, but he doesn't look like Muhammad Ali either.
I think he looks more like Muhammad Ali than George Foreman.
Okay, well, fair enough. So he did an action thriller film, Collateral, which cast Tom Cruise, and again, can't stand that guy. I've never seen him in anything I liked him in.
Tom Cruise? Really?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
No. Okay, I will say this. He's like Schwarzenegger. Everything I've ever seen Tom Cruise in, I can think of 2 or 3 people who would have been better in the role, including Legend.
So, okay. All right. So we're going to have a debate here.
Okay.
Legend, I could agree with you. Somebody else could have been in that. I thought his acting was not very good in Legend, although I love the movie Legend.
Oh, yeah. Everybody else in that was great.
I did not think his acting was the best. But there is not a chance in hell that somebody could have... you can give me a single person that could have played Maverick better than him. That's his role. He was
Michael
Maverick.
Biehn. Right off the top of my head, Michael Biehn. I would have cast Michael Biehn. He'd have been great.
You said that for Michael Biehn with to swap out with Schwarzenegger too. Maybe you just like Michael Biehn that much.
I do.
But do you want to be Michael Biehn?
No, I don't want to be Michael Biehn.
I
want to be Don Johnson. Who doesn't?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Maybe Tubbs. I kind of like Tubbs. Tubbs pretty cool.
I thought he was perfect in that. I thought he was great in Minority Report. I thought he was really, really good in Minority Report.
Okay, I don't think Tom Cruise is a great actor.
No.
I think that Tom Cruise is a good actor, and I have a lot of respect for all the stuff that he's willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he does a lot of his own stunts. Yep. He will work in any genre and has. I think that it's a situation where you have to be able to separate, you know, the craft and the art from the artist and his stupid antics.
Right.
And I suspect that a lot of people that don't like Tom Cruise
is because of his Scientology beliefs.
Yeah, his Scientology, his jumping up and down on Oprah's couch. His
it's none of that. I think his craft is bad.
Yeah.
I really do.
And I'm going to give you the one that's going to change your mind. Tropic Thunder.
You know what? I would have cast somebody more to type for Tropic Thunder.
Oh my God, he was perfect in that role.
That's the only thing I have seen him in that I thought he had showed any depth at all. And I would have cast. God, you could have cast anybody in all that makeup.
Yeah, you're not going to change my mind there.
Right.
I think he's perfect as Ethan. Ethan, whatever in the Mission Impossible movies, because I really dig on those. So we're going to differ on that. So,
about Tom Cruise. Okay, so going back to Ali a little bit, detailed during the night scenes while shooting most of the interiors on film stock, Jamie Foxx was not because he was using digital characters for interiors, film stock on exteriors. Jamie Foxx was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in Collateral as well. In 2004, Mann produced The Aviator, based on the life of Howard Hughes, which he developed for the Leonardo DiCaprio.
No fucking idea.
Well, he was a producer, not the director.
Oh, sure, okay.
Nominated for Academy Award for Best Picture, but lost $1 Million Baby. After Collateral, Mann directed the film adaptation of Miami Vice, which he also executive produced. It stars a completely new cast with Colin Farrell as Don Johnson's character, Sonny Crockett, and Jamie Foxx filling in Philip Michael Thomas's shoes. I thought Jamie Foxx was great as Tubbs.
I didn't see it.
I thought Colin Farrell was. It looked like he was bumping coke in between scenes.
Yeah,
he was kind of mailing it in.
Yeah,
and that's an actor that I don't really like. Not a whole lot.
Mann was producer, and Peter Berg was the director for his next two films. The Kingdom and Hancock. Yeah.
I love Hancock.
Yeah. Oh, The
You
Kingdom
love
was
that
great.
movie? Really?
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
Hancock is such a weird fucking movie.
Oh, I
It's
know.
like they took the first half and the second half of two completely different movies and stuck them together.
Yeah. I enjoyed it, though. I enjoyed it.
It was so weird.
It was very weird, but I like weird stuff, so...
In 2009, Mann wrote and directed Public Enemies for Universal Pictures about the Depression-era crime wave based on Brian Burroughs' nonfiction book, Public Enemies, America's Greatest Crime Wave, and the Birth of the FBI. It starred Johnny Depp and Christian Bale. Depp played John Dillinger in the film, and Bale played Melvin Purvis, the FBI agent in charge of capturing Dillinger. And I told you I had a lot of Michael Mann. I think he's great.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
Again, the only thing I've ever seen that he did that I didn't care for was Heat, because I didn't like Al Pacino. I really didn't care for Collateral because, again, I don't like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Everybody else in both of those movies was fine. In January 2010, it was reported by Variety that Mann, alongside David Milch, would serve as co-executive producer of a new TV series called Luck, which was about horse racing. It didn't last very long. I think you can hit it on HBO still, but I think it only did one season.
That vaguely rings a bell.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. All right. And it's like, well, you got people sitting around a table in Hollywood somewhere and they're brainstorming ideas. And somebody says, what about a show about horse racing? That sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we got to get Michael Mann. So on February 14th, 2013, it was announced that Mann had been developing an untitled thriller film with screenwriter Morgan Davis Fole for over a year for Legendary Pictures. In May 2013, Mann started filming the action thriller named Black Hat in Los Angeles, Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, and Jakarta. The film starred Chris Hemsworth as a hacker who gets released from prison to pursue a cyber terrorist across the globe. It was released on January 16, 2015 by Universal. It received mixed reviews.
Never heard of
was
it.
A commercial disaster, although several critics included it on their year-end best of list. Mann is directing the first episode of the upcoming Tokyo Vice series for HBO Max currently.
Really?
Yeah, he's going to do
Interesting.
Tokyo Vice for HBO, and that is all I have for Michael.
That's pretty cool. I mean, there was a lot that I didn't know. I don't know why I always thought Manhunter was a TV series versus a movie, but I need to watch it because as much as I liked Red Dragon, that's one I need to give a give a listen.
Tom Noonan,
give a listen, give a watch.
Tom Noonan as the Red Dragon character. Tom Noonan is way more menacing than Ralph Fiennes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Ralph Fiennes' acting was great. I thought he looked good and everything else. Tom Noonan is a big, scary mofo. So you definitely want to check that out.
Well, do yourself a favor. Watch Crime Story.
Yes,
You can find
I
it
will,
streaming
yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, I'll go back and find it.
I want to
That
say
sounds
it's
great.
streaming on Amazon Prime.
And
Because I watched
Dennis
it recently.
Farina is great.
God, he's so good in
Yeah,
this.
it's such a good and I hated that it only went 2 seasons.
Yeah, well, it's because of the cost. It's because they
right.
paid so much detail to getting the cars right, getting the clothing right, and everything
Yeah.
else. They ran into cost overruns.
No, absolutely. So great. No, interested. A lot of interesting stuff on Michael Mann, stuff I didn't know. Pretty cool stuff. Good job.
Well, thank you, sir.
Good job. I like that a lot. Well, if nothing else, then we will skip over to the murder side of the house.
Murder.
So for my episode today, I got my information from historical crime detective, Palm Beach Past, Find a Grave, Ancestry, Chronicling America, Refinery 29, and Murder in the Tropics by Stuart B. McIver. And this is the story of Lena Clarke.
Lena Clarke.
So I started off with the opening from the book Murder in the Tropics. So, quote, "The sweaty quiet of a hot August night ended suddenly. A disheveled, wild-eyed woman barged into the Orlando police station and then into the office of Chief E.D. Vestal. The chief had been around law enforcement track a few times as a Pinkerton detective in Chicago, a deputy sheriff in nearby Hillsborough County, and a railroad detective. Nothing he had heard or done before quite prepared him for the bizarre series of stories the red-haired woman began to tell that hot summer night in 1921.
1921.
Okay, wait. Stop. Is this like a fictionalized portrayal of this event?
No.
Was that like a straight up, like a reporting?
This was how the author opened the story of the true case.
Because that sounds like the opening of like a Dashiell Hammett novel, you know?
Just wait, because it
Key
gets
Largo.
better. So the hot summer night in 1921. It was only the beginning. The stories would get stranger and stranger, involving such old friends and foes as Adam and Eve, Cleopatra, the Apostle Paul, and a well-known playwright named William Shakespeare.
What?
This is the strange story of Lena Clarke. Lena Paul is a porn actress, I think.
All right.
She probably has a strange story too.
I'm sure. So, Lena Marietta Thankful Clarke was born on March 1st, 1886 to the Reverend Almond Taylor Clarke and Marietta Thankful Whitney in Sheldon, Vermont. So her father was a nationally known theologian. He went across the country preaching and talking the Bible. And Lena devoted much of her time to the Red Cross, the Congregational Church, and selling war bonds during World War I. Her sister Maud was the West Palm Beach city librarian, and her sister Susan and Susan's family were the first florists in Miami. They said that Lena was very intelligent, and precocious as a child. She began reading philosophy books at age 6, so pretty advanced there. For more than a decade, Lena worked at the West Palm Beach post office, where her brother, John Paul Clarke, was the postmaster. Paul quit the post office in 1918 due to hearing loss, and he decided to focus on his other hobbies, taxidermy and snake charming.
Nice.
Which came to an unfortunate end because on Christmas Day in 1920, John Paul died at the result of a bite from a coral snake.
Uh-huh.
So, maybe in your retirement, don't get into snake charming.
Charming.
The succeeding postmaster resigned in 1920, and local businessmen actually petitioned to have Lena appointed as postmistress. It's very unusual for the time to have someone in such an important job, for a woman to have such an important job. Very, very unusual. At the time, post offices took a lot of money in cash for stamp sales, mailing packages, money orders, cash on demand, and war bonds. And on July 26, 1921, Lena sent $32,000 in cash in 2 registered mail sacks to the Atlanta Federal Reserve for deposit. That's almost $500,000 today. The sacks arrived in Atlanta, and they opened them, and there was not any money inside.
Oh, no.
Instead, there were mail order catalogs that were cut to the size of money. So authorities found this to be a bit odd. And they sent a postal...
Strange.
This is odd.
Don't say.
Huh.
So they sent a postal inspector to West Palm Beach to question Lena. And, I really don't know how this happened. I guess they just said, hey, we got these bags full of not money. Do you know anything about it? And she went, no, because they just let her go. And it was done.
I mean, that's money.
That's my assumption. I didn't find any information on why they questioned her, why they didn't arrest her. Postal inspectors can arrest people. They're peace officers just like anybody else.
Because she was just a girl.
Maybe.
Yeah, 1920.
Well, on Sunday, August 1st, Lena hired a driver named Baxter Patterson to drive her to Orlando. She checked into room 87 of the San Juan Hotel in downtown Orlando under an assumed name, and she met up with a former mail carrier with whom she had worked and had an affair. This was Fred Miltimore. Fred was originally from Chicago, and he had left his post office job in the West Palm Beach and was now running the Arcade restaurant in Orlando. Later that evening, Lena goes to the Orlando Police Department and walked into Chief Vestal's office, where she told him he needed to send officers to room 87 of the San Juan Hotel, where they would find Fred Miltimore, who was responsible for the theft of $32,000 stolen from the West Palm Beach post office. She had informed the chief she was the postmistress and she'd come to town looking for Fred. And Chief Vestal wanted to know why she thought Fred was there, to which she replied, "Oh, I drugged him." She drugged him with a morphine pill and then left him there locked up. So the chief got on the phone. He called West Palm Beach and found out she was indeed the postmistress. And he sent officers to the hotel, and they go to the hotel room and went in, and they did find Fred in the hotel room, and 2 empty money bags that had been slashed with a knife. Tags on the bag showed they were from the First National Bank of West Palm Beach to the Federal Reserve at Atlanta. One was supposed to contain $32,000. The other contained $9,000. However, Fred was a little more than drugged. He was dead.
Oh, no.
Fred was dead from a gunshot wound to the chest. And
I don't think a morphine pill did that.
I don't think so either.
Nope.
The gun was...
Damn, that's a horrible morphine pill.
Oh, shit.
The gun was lying right
drugs.
there. So they had the...
Spit take.
Almost.
So they found the gun, and the officers on the scene, they called the chief, who went back to Lena because she was still at the station. And the chief confronted her and said, "Didn't you kill Miltimore, Miss Clarke?" She said, "Nope, I didn't."
Nope.
And then the chief asked the question again, and he said she hesitated and said, "Yes, I killed him."
You just got to ask her twice. That's what it is.
Apparently. After she began confessing, she finally told the chief that she had followed Fred from West Palm Beach and lured him up to the hotel room. She then told the chief, "I shot Miltimore. I did it after attempting to make him sign a statement that he had committed the robbery. He wouldn't sign, and in desperation, I shot him." I think we skipped a few levels here.
This went from 0 to 100.
Well, that escalated quickly.
I'm imagining it kind of went like this. "Fred, you need to confess." And Fred says, "No." And she goes, "Fuck it," and shot him. Were there no other options here?
Okay, wait. Okay, I have to stop for a second. At what point, when she went to the police and told them she drugged him with a pill, did she think they weren't going to notice the gunshot wound?
Well,
The police had already come to her and said, "Do you know anything about this?" And she said, "Nope." And they went, "Very good then." And went on about their business. And so
that's what it would appear.
That's what she was thinking. Okay, all right, I'm with you.
So Lena was then arrested, and within a few days she was indicted on charges of first-degree murder. Chief Festal came out and gave a public statement about Lena, and he said, quote, "In 1918, she was the assistant postmaster at West Palm Beach. There was a $38,000 shortage discovered in the office. Miss Clarke said that although she was not able to get any proof, she suspected Miltimore. Both she and Miltimore, a short time later, were candidates for postmaster, and during their candidacies, $20,000 more in canceled money orders disappeared. This, too, she said she believed Miltimore was responsible for, seeking to discredit her candidacy. The $32,000 was for the purpose of covering up the earlier shortages. She told me she brought the money in sacks and $725 over to the hotel room and sent for Miltimore to prove to him that in her desperation she had taken the money involved to straighten up the old accounts." That's her statement. Chief Festal then questioned her again on a second occasion and asked her again if she shot Fred, and she said, "I don't remember. I didn't do it." The chief said she had worried day and night over the shortage in her office and that it was difficult for her to recall just what did happen. She told me she had purchased an auto and had recently taken out a $30,000 insurance policy, intending to drive the auto over a bridge somewhere and kill herself. The insurance money, she figured, would square her accounts.
You know, this makes me wonder, why don't we just turn investigations over to insurance companies?
Right.
Put them in charge of that.
Yeah.
And, it would clear a lot of things up. I think it would really streamline the process.
Probably. The following day, he questioned her again, and she told him that in a dream the night before, the hotel room scene had come back to her, and that she was sure he would find some of the money missing in the bathroom of her room. So police went back and searched the room and found $725 in water-soaked bills underneath the float in the toilet tank. So that came to her in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
The months that followed her trial, Lena would be on headlines across the country, and she became a celebrity. And I thought this was interesting because this was 10 years before Winnie Ruth Judd, the trunk murderess. You haven't heard that episode yet. It just came out for our Patreons today. But Winnie Ruth Judd, she was also sensationalized. I know. She was sensationalized across the country. And so same thing here with Lena Clarke.
I'm thinking Roxy Hart in Chicago is what's coming to my mind.
In an article in the Washington Times, it was written, "Lena Mary Thankful Clarke, if you please, is a queer combination, a bundle of contradictions. In personal appearance and dress, she is far from attractive. Her wow. This article is not great. Her figure is heavy and uncorseted, and her clothes smack of the backwoods.
So of course she's guilty.
Her shoes are generally without heels, and her stockings of cotton. Her skin is very fine in texture, but covered with large, disfiguring freckles. Miss Clarke's only assets in appearance are her hair, which is decidedly Titian," which that was a new one on me. I didn't even know that word. Red hair. It's a tint of red hair.
Oh, okay.
Commonly described as kind of brownish orange.
So she's the redheaded stepchild. Is basically, she has to be guilty because she is the redheaded stepchild.
She's the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So is decidedly Titian and naturally wavy, and her eyes deep blue in color and absolute straight and unwavering in her gaze. Later in that same article, they wrote that Lena would often visit a man called Grandpa Collins, who was the caretaker of the house where Lena had a studio type apartment. And every time she came to the house, she'd sit down with him, take out cards, cut the deck, and tell fortunes. She received lots of fan mail and flowers from admirers while she was in jail, and she was even allowed to redecorate her jail cell. Somewhere,
or probably just decorated. Right. I don't imagine it came with curtains when she moved in.
I'm sure it had them.
I don't like that shade of mauve. I'm going to redecorate.
Somewhere during her time in jail, a friend bought her a typewriter, which she used to write and send poetry and letters to her many supporters. She also wrote an autobiography.
She had her own Patreon.
She did, because she ended up writing her
Please
own.
and thank you.
She ended up writing her own autobiography from jail, which she sold through the local papers for 25 cents. Her father said of Lena, "The law of man may declare our daughter a robber and a murderess, but in the sight of God and her aged father and mother, she is as innocent as a newborn babe." At which point Lena said, "Oh, yeah, I didn't do it." And she took her confession back.
Can I just take that? Thank you.
Yeah, and they said, "So what about the confession you made to the chief?" And she said, "I don't remember that." But she also did call herself a superwoman and claimed she could read the sheriff's mind.
All right.
So her trial date was approaching, and she once again changed her story. Now she said that in 1918 she had stolen registered bank money from the post office, and while she was being investigated for that, she tried pointing suspicion at Fred, who had eventually quit and moved to Florida. She said that there was another man named Joseph B. Elwell who loaned her $20,000 to cover the theft. However, go ahead and ask the question. Are we going to talk to Joseph? Are we going to get his alibi? You can't. He was murdered in New York in 1920 in a case that remains unsolved to this day.
Oh.
What a coincidence. What a eerily convenient coincidence.
Police did investigate several other men from Florida to New York as possible accomplices because they didn't believe that a woman could pull off a crime like this by herself.
Of course not.
Yeah.
She was just a girl.
Oh, they said they were sure that a man had to have helped her.
Of course, yes. Okay.
But
Holy shit.
yeah,
These people never met a woman.
Apparently not.
they couldn't ever get any connection to anybody else, so they had to drop all that. So her trial began in November of 1921, and her family hired two big law firms to defend her, one from Orlando and one from Palm Beach. And this is going to shock you. Both firms agreed to try and claim Lena not guilty by reason of insanity.
For real?
Lena kind of did a whole lot to support this. So we have everything before, including the Superwoman. Well, one day in court, she brought in a crystal ball and gazed into it while on the witness stand.
This is where Adam and Eve and Cleopatra come in.
Oh, she proceeded to embark on a 3.5-hour tale of her 12 previous lives that she led.
I've heard of this part.
She began telling the story of how Fred lured her into the room at the San Juan Hotel and then drifted into what the Tribune called a spiritualistic seance. So, are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Here we go.
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, seatbelts on.
Yeah,
Let's do
you
this.
definitely want to buckle up for this one. So, the first thing she said was, I was a mere atom.
Do that.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
She said, I was a mere atom in an unformed universe when God created the solar system. The stars and planets looked a lot like soap bubbles in a big washtub, and God reached in and took them out one by one, putting them where they belonged. My next existence was in the Garden of Eden. She said, I was there when the Lord drove Adam and Eve out of the garden, and the same flaming sword that drove them from paradise kept me in. I tried to go out with them, but I could not escape the sword. Next, she said she was the goddess Isis in Egypt, complete with her own temple and 7 veils covering her face, not because she was sacred, but rather hideous and ugly. It was here she encountered Fred Miltimore, who was a messenger for the Pharaoh.
You know, Fred Miltimore, that classic Egyptian name.
Fred Miltimore.
Well, Fred exposed her opposition to the Pharaoh's government, ripped off her 7 veils, and turned her over to the chief who had her put to death. Next, she became Berenice, the last queen of the Jews. When she was only 12, she was married to King Herod, and she also poisoned him with a grape dipped in deadly fluid.
So, how is it that these people that remember these former lives, they're never just like, oh yeah, I was Joe Shit the Ragman.
Right, exactly.
I'm so glad you said Joe Shit the Ragman.
Her next incarnation, she was in Jerusalem where she heard Paul the Apostle speak when the rabble attacked him. She said, The Apostle Paul was my brother Paul in life. I next saw him after Jerusalem was burned by Titus. Titus had her thrown into a prison where Fred showed up again. This time he was captain of the guards. He let her talk to
Fred
Paul.
Miltimore,
Fred
the
Miltimore,
Roman.
captain of the Roman
Classic
guards.
Roman name, who apparently is also an immortal vampire. Because, she's having additional lives.
Yeah.
But we don't know how he's transporting through time.
Well, she said that Fred let her talk to Paul, and they reported back to Titus that Lena, whatever her name was here, was carrying on a big flirtation with Paul. So Titus dragged me out by the feet and threw me to the lions. Cleopatra was there, and she laughed hilariously when the lions sprang at me and devoured me.
I love this story. I want a movie made out of this story.
Her next life, she was in England, where her friend Will Shakespeare wrote for her.
Hey, Will.
Hey, Will. William Shakespeare wrote for her the part of Ophelia in Hamlet.
Oh, wow.
okay.
The name-dropping game and this lady is strong.
She said that the part of Hamlet was written for H.F. Moore, who was the assistant prosecutor. Then
Was it Fred?
It was not Fred. Then she said, I finally became so saturated with the part of Ophelia that I really floated away on the current of the River Wye. From there, she went to France, where she had her head sliced off by guillotine during the French Revolution.
Of course.
I'm floating down the River Wye right now.
Finally, she came back into the present and she did a little future telling. She said, I see Eugene V. Debs running for president in 8 years. I will be vice president, and then Debs will be assassinated, and I will become president. She further proclaimed she would be found innocent and that this would be the start of her national career.
See, none of the rest of that stuff matters. They're going to declare her incompetent because she thought she was going to be president.
Maybe.
But yeah, but didn't Debs actually run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, several times, right?
I do believe so.
Okay, all right.
Is it going to shock you when I tell you that multiple psychiatrists were called?
No.
They were actually called alienists at the time.
Yes.
I never knew why this was a word that they used. Do you know the origin of this?
Alienist?
Yeah.
No, I read the book way back in the day.
I mean, to me, it sounded like somebody researching aliens, but apparently in the 19th century, this was the preferred term for people who worked in the psychology world. The word comes from the French word alien, maybe, which means insane. So an alienist is someone who treats the insane.
Okay.
I can't wait to start calling Barbie an alien.
An alienist? Right. I'm sure she'll love that.
Hi, Barbie.
There was a Dr. Susan Kahn, who was a history professor at the University of Buffalo. She specializes in the history of mental illness, and she said, I assume in addition to the French word, it implies a person being alienated from their primary self or personality, thus a state of madness.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
So there were three psychologists, three alienists actually called. Two of them found her to be insane, while one thought everything was just a very clever ruse.
One thought that she was just hilarious.
Yes.
Much like us.
On December 2nd, 1921, the jury, all men, took less than 3 hours to come back with a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity.
Not guilty by reason of vagina.
So the judge committed her to the Florida State Mental Hospital at Chattahoochee. And apparently this pissed Lena off, and she told the judge she would have rather been sent to the gallows than a mental hospital. Mental hospitals were pretty bad at the time.
Sure.
They were horrifically bad. I did also read somewhere that, I had a problem finding this later, that the driver, Baxter Patterson, was also arrested and indicted, but I couldn't find if they declared him guilty or not. So I think they tried to put him as part of this too.
Okay.
I don't know. Lena actually only stayed at Chattahoochee for less than a year, and she returned to West Palm Beach after being released and moved in with her sister Maud and her 99-year-old mother Marietta. She returned to her work in the church and the Red Cross. The house itself that they lived in was actually owned by one of the law firms that represented her. So for payment for legal services, the firm sent Lena to England to research their family history.
Wait,
I know.
what?
I thought that was weird. Okay, so we got you put in a mental ward. We own your house. Hey, go to Europe for us and then look up what our family means. This whole story is weird. She'd continue to actually live in the house till her death. I know.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
This really happened. I mean,
it really happened.
Okay.
So I'm unclear. Did Fred actually have a part in this at all, or was he just a patsy?
We don't really know because she killed him. You know, we don't know if he had anything to do with it or not, or if she did, if she killed him to protect herself.
So no evidence presented at any time, like, okay, here's where I got the bags off of him, or, you know, I don't know.
Oh, no. Well, her story went back and forth. Yes, I did it. No, I didn't do it. Yes, I did it. No, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. She lived out a very kind of a strange life the rest of her time. She and her sister would spend the rest of their lives unmarried. I found the U.S. Census in 1930, and it either showed her as a nurse or unemployed. I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell if the word was nurse or none. Yeah. It was very hard to read.
Maybe an unemployed nurse.
yes.
Could be. Her mother was listed there as well, and it's the same with her. It's either nurse or none. I'll put a picture on the website because I got some screenshots of it, and you can judge it for yourself.
So this was the 99-year-old woman?
The mother of the 99-year-old mother was listed, yes. So that's probably none.
I'm guessing none then.
Yeah.
But in 1935, it does show her as unemployed. In 1940, it showed her as being a writer. She actually did quite a bit of writing in her later years on church history for several publications. She shows up frequently in articles about her relief efforts through the 40s and the 50s.
Right. So you said at the time of the theft, the lost money was about $500,000 in
Yes.
today's money.
Yes.
And the money was never recovered except for like $725.
Correct.
Right? So, yeah, own a house outright, kind of living in the sticks.
They didn't own the house outright. The
law firm
owned
owned
the
the
house.
Well, sure, but I mean, clearly they never repossessed it from her.
Right. No,
So-
because they sent her to England to study their family history.
Yeah. So effectively living in a house she owns outright. Yeah, I could probably live the rest of my life on $500,000 under those circumstances.
I'm sure.
Oh,
I'm sure.
yeah.
She finally died in 1967.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she lived a long life, and she's buried next to her sister Maud in the Woodlawn Cemetery in West Palm Beach. So that's the story of Lena Clarke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. There's just something you don't hear every day.
I found it an interesting case to talk about, especially just her all of her lives.
Yeah.
When I started reading the story and I got into that, I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Wait, go back.
So I just thought it was funny, and I'm sorry that was probably a little short. But it's a very interesting story. I think Lena Clarke was a very interesting person.
Yes.
To say the least. So there will be some pictures on the website about her. I've got some pictures of her and her sisters, Susan and Maud. And I've got, I think I've got some pictures of her writing too, if I recall correctly. Several screenshots of that. But yeah, so
Sweet.
That's all I have for this week.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Keith, thank you for joining us again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Happy
This was great. Thank you.
to have you in and sit in and give your opinions on our idiocy.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of fun.
You require supervision.
We do require supervision. Well, Will can't do it. That's for fucking sure.
He's been over there on his phone the whole time.
Yeah, I know. I don't pay attention to him anymore. We don't know what the hell he's doing over there anyway.
Num, 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 num.
You're an idiot.
now he's actively ignoring you.
Yes, that is very active ignorance right there. So yeah, that'll take us to the end of our recording week. You can find us as always on nerderymurder.com. That's where the link to all of our podcast platforms are. You can also find the links to all of our social media as well as our email contacts. So if you want to email us, let us know things you like, let us know things you don't like, let us know things you want to hear. We want to hear it all.
Always looking for material.
Not always going to take the advice, but we'll at least read it and listen to it. If we can use it, we will. So don't hesitate to do that. You can also find our merchandise on our website where you can get your Nerdery and Murdery logo merchandise and go show off your fandom. You can find the link to our Patreon. So if you'd like to donate to the show to help us along with our costs, we do very much appreciate all of our patrons.
Please and thank you.
And with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Geoffrey with your murdering.
And I'm Keith with your supervision.
Cue the music.